Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a client walks into a session, right, and their thoughts are just like a tangled ball of yarn.
Hmm.
They're trying to explain something complex, maybe a conflict with a friend, and they're just jumbled, disorganized even.
Yeah.
How do you, as a helper, even begin to make sense of it with them? Or, maybe more importantly, help them start making sense of it?
Well, what's fascinating here is that, as Muriel Rukeyser so eloquently put it, the world is made of stories, not atoms.
Right.
And that's pretty much exactly what we're diving into today. It's the art of helping clients explore their non-affective content.
Their thoughts, their narrative.
Exactly. The stories they tell themselves about their lives, their
And
problems.
for you, listening in, maybe preparing for counseling and psychology practice, this deep dive is really all about equipping you with those foundational skills.
Hmm.
Skills can navigate these internal landscapes, effectively. We'll go step by step through the theories, the really crucial skills, and how they actually play out in real sessions.
Yeah, our mission today is basically to pull out the most important nuggets from Clara E. Hill's helping skills. We're focusing specifically on these non-effective aspects of communication.
Thoughts and stories.
Right. We want to show you not just what these skills are, but really why they matter and how you can apply them,
How to build rapport.
foster insight, and really promote client growth, without feeling completely overwhelmed by it all.
Okay, let's get into it. So why is it so incredibly important to um, zero in on these thoughts and narratives, especially when, feelings often feel more pressing or immediate?
Well, clients often come in and their thoughts are just so jumbled up, so entangled, it's genuinely hard for them to make sense of things on their own.
Yeah.
They really need to talk about their thoughts just to gain some clarity. And as helpers, our job is to listen non-judgmentally.
To really understand their unique perspective.
Exactly. Their stories, their explanations for their problems. And this initial clarity, it isn't just helpful in the moment. It sets that crucial stage for the insight process later on.
Where thoughts can maybe be,
Or
yeah,
reframed, yeah.
and where those stories can actually begin to be rewritten by the client themselves.
And here's where it gets, like, really interesting for me. This whole idea of stories being central, it's actually at the heart of a whole therapeutic approach.
Narrative therapy,
You got it.
developed by folks like Madigan and White.
Right.
It's built on this really profound assumption that people are fundamentally storytelling creatures.
It's just what we do.
It is. Across all cultures, we create these narratives that shape who we are, how we understand our lives. So by examining these stories, which are often kind of ill-defined or maybe rigid or just not serving the client well anymore,
Mm-hmm.
people can actually begin to reshape their identities and their thinking. It's a powerful realization that even a small shift in how you tell your story,
Yeah.
that can have a huge long-term impact on a person's life, their whole trajectory.
Okay, but hang on. We're not talking about clients just, telling entertaining stories for an hour or endlessly complaining, are we?
There must be a crucial distinction there between productive exploration and just recounting stuff.
That's an excellent point, a really vital distinction. We need to distinguish between true exploration, rumination, and just storytelling for entertainment.
Okay.
Think about the difference. Storytelling for entertainment, it often has this kind of polished quality,
They're
right?
like rehearsed.
Exactly. A clear beginning, climax, conclusion. The client might be performing a bit, seeking attention, maybe just sharing something interesting, but they're not really digging deeper into its personal meaning for them.
Got it. Then there's rumination.
Rumination, often characterized by a very steady, almost monotonous voice, lots of repetition.
Going around in circles.
Totally. The goal there isn't discovery. It's more about worrying or justifying or replaying events, which, research has found often just perpetuates the very problem the client wants to escape.
Like digging the hole deeper.
Precisely. But then there's true exploration.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, in contrast, this involves noticeable pauses. You can almost see them checking things out internally.
Thinking on the spot.
Yeah. A varied voice tone as the person genuinely discovers new things while they're talking. There's an active discovery process happening right there.
So the goal is different.
Completely. It's to think about, evaluate, consider, reflect, see new aspects of their experience. It's not just clarifying, it's almost like this act of co-creation.
Co-creation.
Yeah, where the client, with you holding up that mirror, begins to literally re-author their internal experience.
Wow. Okay. It's interesting, though, that we're specifically highlighting non-affective content, the thoughts, the stories. even though we know thoughts and feelings are so tangled up.
Mm-hmm.
What's the strategic reason for kind of zeroing in on thoughts alone at this stage? Is there a risk?
It's mostly a practical distinction we make in teaching these skills. While thoughts and feelings are absolutely linked, the intention and the outcome for focusing on each are different. Well, many beginning helpers, maybe intuitively, lean towards emotions first. But the reality in sessions, clients spend most of their time discussing thoughts.
Really? That much?
Yeah, there was a study, Goetz Jones and colleagues back in '09. They found trained doctoral student therapists spent a significant, 64% of their exploration stage skills on thoughts,
Wow. 64%.
through restatements and open questions mainly, compared to only about 24% focusing directly on feelings.
So being good at engaging with the cognitive stuff.
It's not just important, it's pretty much the primary mode of engagement in those early stages. You have to be comfortable there.
Okay, so let's start with a core skill then. Restatements and summaries. What exactly are they? How do they work in a session?
Okay, so a restatement is basically repeating or paraphrasing the non-affective content, the thought, the story bit of what a client has just said.
Just echoing it back.
Sort of, but usually using fewer words, maybe slightly different but similar words. The goal is to make the client's statement more concrete, clearer. It can be tentative.
Yeah.
So you seem to be saying that maybe you were a little bit late. Or more direct, just you were late.
And it can be about something they just said or earlier.
Exactly. You can pull from something they said a few minutes ago, too.
And summaries then? Are they just longer restatements?
Pretty much. Summaries are a type of restatement that ties together several ideas or highlights the general themes of the content.
Pulling threads together.
Yeah, consolidating what the client has said over a period of time, but crucially, without adding your own new interpretations, just reflecting the essence.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine an adolescent client is venting, right? My parents are always in my room, they don't listen to anything I say, and I just get so annoyed that I completely shut them out.
Okay.
A helper might summarize that after a bit by saying something like, so what I'm hearing is that you have this really strong negative reaction when your parents feel intrusive, like they're violating your privacy, and you feel unheard by them, and this pattern leads you to withdraw and shut down.
Right, it captures the key pieces. Why are these seemingly simple reflections so powerful, though? What's going on psychologically?
Well, the rationale really goes back to Carl Rogers. He brilliantly described helpers as being like mirrors or sounding boards.
Yes.
When clients are confused or stuck or just grappling with these vague internal sensations, hearing an accurate restatement helps them get crucial feedback.
Feedback on how they sound to someone else.
Exactly. It's like getting a chance to hear yourself think aloud, but maybe in a slightly new, clearer way. It allows for what some call successive approximations.
Yeah.
It's like a step-by-step process where those vague internal feelings or thoughts get gradually translated into clearer, more precise words.
Oh, it helps them define it for themselves.
Yes, it's not just about clarifying the words, it's about externalizing the internal stuff, giving clients a chance to actually observe their own mental processes, and that's a huge step in gaining agency over their narratives.
So this isn't just passive listening, is it? It sounds very active, actually. Collaborative.
It truly is. Helpers use restatements not just to reflect, but also to confirm their own understanding. Did I get that right?
Again?
Yeah. And to summarize effectively, in fewer concise terms, that requires really careful attention to the key components of what clients are revealing. It becomes the shared struggle to understand and articulate the client's thoughts. It's deeply empathetic and active.
Okay. So when is the best time to use these skills? When are they most helpful?
Restatements and summaries are generally most appropriate when clients are talking cognitively.
Thinking things through.
Right, trying to explain a situation, sort out their thoughts, structure their experience. Some clients really like to analyze their problems, and they might feel a bit threatened or put off if you push too early into feelings.
Makes sense. Meet them where they are.
Exactly. And summaries are also really great for providing closure at the end of a session or bringing focus at the beginning of a new one, especially if the client tends to be a bit diffuse or, confused about where to start.
Okay, but how do we restate effectively without just sounding like a parrot? That's the fear, right? Feeling robotic.
Totally. It's a common worry for beginners. But no, it's not about parroting at all. The goal is to capture the cutting edge of what the client has revealed.
The cutting edge. What do you mean?
It's what they seem uncertain about, what feels unexplored, or what seems to carry the most emotional weight or energy for them right now. Think of that Wayne Gretzky metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
Go to where the puck is going, not where it has been. You're trying to pick out the most salient message, the thing that's emerging.
How do you know what that is?
You listen for their focus, their energy shifts, where the conflicts seem to lie, the unresolved issues. Even their nonverbal cues can signal it.
Okay, so that takes real empathy and intuition.
It absolutely does. It's a judgment call, definitely. Requires deep empathic listening to try and discern what's most important for the client in that moment. And restatements should generally be shorter, more concise than what the client said.
Focusing it.
Right, focusing on the really important material. So for instance, if a client talks about like 10 reasons why they can't study, instead of listing them all, you might just say, so you haven't been able to study lately. It helps orient them back to that core issue.
And you mentioned keeping the focus on the client, not on other people in their stories.
Precisely. That's crucial. Like the example in the book about Janet, who was talking about moving but kept focusing on what her colleagues would think.
Right.
The helper wisely refocused her by saying, you would like to move. It brings the exploration back to Janet's internal desires and struggles, which is where the work needs to happen.
Are there different ways to phrase restatements so you don't sound repetitive, using the same opening phrase over and over?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You can vary your introductions. Instead of always saying, so you're saying, you can try, I hear you saying. Or, it sounds as though, or what you seem to be saying is, mix it up. You can also subtly draw out a key word the client used with a questioning tone. Like if they mention their daughter's IQ, that little lift invites them to elaborate without you asking a direct question.
Clever.
And you can even draw on material from earlier in the session, bringing back an important point they mentioned but maybe didn't fully explore. It shows you're really tracking with them.
What happens if you get it wrong? If your restatement is just off base, is that a disaster?
Not at all. Honestly, it's usually fine. If your restatement is off, the client will typically clarify.
No, it's more like.
Exactly. And that clarification actually helps both of you understand things better. As long as you show you're willing to keep listening, to be corrected, one misstep won't break the therapeutic relationship.
That's reassuring.
It is. And this also links into cultural considerations, you know? Sometimes for some clients, it might be helpful to explain the rationale. Just saying something like, I'm paraphrasing what you say sometimes, just so we can both be sure I'm understanding your concerns before we move on.
Can you give us another quick example, just to hear the flow?
Sure. Let's imagine a client maybe conflicted about going on a religious pilgrimage during their final semester. They're worried about grades, but also about having to travel with their estranged father.
Okay, complex.
Yeah. So the client might say, I have to go on this pilgrimage to Mecca, but I'm really worried my grades will suffer. I don't feel like I have much choice. Helper might simply restate, you have to go, just reflecting that core constraint.
Okay.
Client might then say, yeah, you know, for my religion, and my father has to go, and I don't have a very good relationship with him at all. Helper then gently refocuses, you said you don't have a very good relationship with your father.
Highlighting the relational piece.
Exactly. It gently guides the client deeper into that conflict, which seems to be a key part of their struggle, all without the helper needing to interpret or push, just reflecting.
What are the common pitfalls, then, for beginners using restatements?
Well, the biggest one is that feeling of awkwardness, like you're just parroting. But honestly, clients usually react really positively. They feel heard, understood. The key is to vary your format, like we said, and really focus on that cutting edge, the emerging meaning, rather than just repeating everything mindlessly or sounding robotic.
So it's a shift in mindset, too.
Definitely. It's a shift away from feeling like you immediately have to fix the problem or offer advice, and instead allowing the client the space to think things through themselves with your help as a mirror.
Okay, now on to the second skill. Open questions and probes for thoughts. How do these differ from restatements? What new territory do they open up?
Right. So with an open question, you're genuinely encouraging broader exploration. Something like, what thoughts do you have about going back to school?
No specific answer expected.
Exactly. You're opening up a topic for them to explore freely. A probe, on the other hand, is often a bit more non-specific in requesting information. Often just, tell me more about that, or Could you say more about that feeling?
So both aim for exploration.
Yes, both aim for exploration. They just use slightly different grammatical forms.
Ah.
An open question is clearly a question. A probe is more of a gentle request or invitation.
And they help clients clarify and explore without just a yes or no answer. Gives them space.
Precisely. They're particularly useful when clients maybe are rambling a bit or repeating thoughts without really digging deeper.
Or when they're confused.
Yeah, or confused and need help clarifying things. Open questions can help them unravel conflicting thoughts or even provide a bit of structure if they're not very verbal naturally. Fundamentally, they communicate your curiosity and interest.
Like saying, I want to understand more.
Exactly, like hearing, tell me more, it's inviting.
I like that analogy we used earlier, thinking of problems like a tangled ball of yarn.
That's a great analogy for this too. With each open question or probe, helpers are essentially encouraging clients to take out a little bit of that yarn and talk about it. Examine that thread. And when one piece feels explored thoroughly, you can gently guide them, maybe with another open question, to pull out another piece, addressing another aspect of the problem.
Breaking it down.
Yeah, and asking for specific examples is also a really powerful type of open question or probe. Tell me about a specific time when you felt that way. That really helps move from vague descriptions to concrete experiences.
How do we use them well, though? So they feel inviting, not like an interrogation.
Yeah, delivery is crucial. Appropriate attending behaviors are key. A soft, maybe slower tone of voice, tentative phrasing sometimes.
Feeling warmth.
Yes, you want to convey genuine concern and intimacy, not abruptness or pushiness. And keep the questions short and simple. Please avoid asking multiple questions at once.
Oh yeah, that's overwhelming.
Totally. It can overwhelm clients, or they just end up ignoring some of the important parts you asked about. Stick to one clear question at a time.
And similar to restatements, you said focus on one part of the problem and on the client's thoughts.
Yes, consistently bring the focus back to what the client is experiencing internally, their thoughts, feelings, reactions. So, for example, instead of asking, what did your mother do in that situation? Which focuses externally,
You'd ask.
you'd ask, what went through your mind when you saw your mother's behavior? See the difference. It pulls the focus inward.
Got it. Internal experience.
Right. And also keep the focus on current thoughts, even if they're talking about past events. A useful phrasing is, what do you think now about what happened then?
Processing it in the present.
Exactly. And one more thing. If the client is already exploring deeply on their own, just talking things through,
Don't interrupt.
right, you don't need to jump in with a question. Sometimes silence, just attentive listening, is the most helpful response. Give them the space they're using effectively.
Now, it's so natural in everyday conversation to ask why. We do it all the time. But you hear a lot in training that in the helping context, why questions get a bad rap. Can you unpack why they're generally avoided, especially early on?
That's a great observation, and it's true. In the exploration stage, we generally do try to avoid why questions. Things like, why did you blow up at your boyfriend? Or why aren't you able to study?
Why avoid them?
Well, a couple of reasons. First, people rarely know the true deep down reasons why they do things, at least not initially. Asking why often just leads to intellectualizations or justifications.
Makes sense.
And second, why can easily make clients feel defensive, like they're being judged or interrogated or like they should know the answer.
Puts them on the spot.
Yeah. So instead, we usually opt for what or how questions. What was going on that kept you from studying? Or how did you react when? Or what was going through your mind then? These invite description and exploration, not defensiveness.
Okay, that's a really helpful distinction. Can you give us another example of open questions in action?
Sure. Let's take that client we mentioned earlier, the one discussing her younger sister's fighting, her parents divorcing, and feeling guilty she's not there to help. She might say something like, my younger sisters are always fighting. My parents aren't really doing anything. I just wish there was more I could do to help them from here.
Oh, okay.
A helper might use an open probe. Tell me more about what it's like for you not to be there, inviting her experience. She might reply, well, on one hand, I'm kind of delighted to be away from the chaos, but on the other hand, I feel incredibly guilty, like I survived the Titanic crash and left them behind.
Wow. Strong feeling.
Yeah. The helper could then ask an open question to gently guide her. What is it like when you're with your family?
Shifting from the guilt towards the home environment itself.
Exactly. It gently guides her from the guilt she's currently feeling towards exploring the underlying chaotic home environment and her perceived role or feelings when she's actually in it. It invites deeper personal reflection on the context.
What are some common difficulties helpers run into when they're trying to use these open questions effectively?
Well, one common one is just repeating the same question format over and over, like always asking, what do you think about that? It can get stale.
Right.
And another major pitfall is over relying on only open questions, especially when helpers feel anxious or unsure what to do
If
next.
they just keep asking questions.
Yeah, they might pepper the client with question after question. It makes the interaction feel really one-sided, almost like an interrogation. And that can totally stifle the mutual collaborative exploration we're aiming for. It needs to be balanced with restatements and listening.
Okay, so that brings us to the third skill, closed questions. We use these constantly in everyday life, right? Did you lock the door? Is it raining? What's their place in a helping session?
Yes, exactly. We use them all the time. And closed questions are basically those that ask for a very short answer, typically one or two words like yes or no, or maybe a specific fact like, what was your exact test grade? Or how old are you?
So they have a very specific function.
They do. And they have a very important, but honestly extremely limited role in helping sessions that are primarily focused on client exploration.
So when would we genuinely need to use them if they're so limited?
Well, occasionally, if a client is being very vague and you truly need a specific piece of factual information just to understand the basic situation, something like, are you the oldest child in your family? Might be necessary context.
Okay.
Or simply to clarify if you think you misheard something specific. Did you say Tuesday or Thursday? But crucially, they become absolutely vital in crisis situations.
Ah, right. Safety.
Exactly. If there's any potential risk of suicide, homicide, violence, or abuse, child abuse, elder abuse, you must ask direct, closed questions to gather specific information very quickly.
To assess the risk and plan next steps.
Yes, for appropriate referrals, safety planning, and getting immediate supervision yourself. In those cases, directness is essential.
But for the vast majority of a typical helping session, where the goal is exploration,
They're usually not ideal. Exactly right. While closed questions are perfectly useful, even necessary in other kinds of interviews like a medical intake, a legal deposition, maybe academic advising, where gathering specific information is the primary goal. In a helping session aimed at exploration, overusing them shifts the dynamic. The helper starts acting like an expert or an interrogator, not a facilitator.
and the helper takes charge.
Yeah, you become responsible for directing the whole interaction, asking all the questions, and clients can become overly passive or dependent on you for guidance, waiting for the next question instead of exploring themselves.
So before asking a closed question, we should always stop and ask ourselves,
Whose need am I actually fulfilling by getting this specific piece of information?
good question.
If the answer is honestly your own voyeurism or just curiosity, or maybe you're just uncomfortable with silence and want to fill it, avoid it. If it genuinely facilitates client exploration in some way, or if it's critical for safety assessment, then okay, proceed. But even then, do it in an empathic, inviting manner, and definitely avoid firing off multiple closed questions in a row.
And we need to watch out for problematic uses too, right? Like that example with Martha and her sister's movie star date.
Oh, yes, that's such a classic example of, well, voyeurism getting the better of the helper. The helper gets totally sidetracked asking all these closed questions about the movie star. What's his name? What movie was he in?
Yeah.
And completely shifts the focus away from Martha's actual struggle, which was probably about jealousy or feeling inadequate or her relationship with her sister.
Lost the thread completely.
Totally. And another really egregious type is using closed questions that are actually condescending or coercive. Like, you really don't want to keep drinking, do you?
Leading the witness.
Exactly. It pressures the client and takes the focus completely away from their own internal process, their own ambivalence or struggle. It shuts down exploration.
So the clear recommendation is use them very sparingly, like a precision tool for specific moments.
Precisely. Really try to reduce the number of closed questions you ask in exploration if you do find you need one for necessary specific information or safety.
Follow up.
Yes. Always follow up immediately with open questions and restatements to bring the focus right back to client-centered exploration. Hand the control back to them.
It really does sound like a dance, doesn't it? Knowing when to use which skill, restatements, open questions, the occasional closed question, How do these three core skills really compare in their function when you put them side by side?
Yeah, thinking about their distinct purpose helps. Let's break it down. Restatements are primarily there to help clients hear what they've just said.
The mirror function.
Exactly. To help them clarify their thoughts, maybe expand upon them. The effect you want is for the client to feel deeply heard, and ideally, their response is something like yes and. They just keep going with their exploration.
So the helper is more receptive there.
Right, in a more receptive mirroring role. Then you have open questions and probes.
The guiding hand.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They directly ask or invite the client to explore more deeply, maybe providing a gentle direction. They're really helpful when the client seems a bit stuck or maybe needs some guidance to delve into a particular area they're hinting at.
So the helper is a bit more active in suggesting where to look.
A little more active, yeah. Suggesting possible avenues for exploration. And then closed questions.
The rare necessity.
Right. They asked for specific, factual information, usually for very particular helper uses, like diagnosis or that crucial safety assessment we talked about. They rarely, if ever, actually help clients explore their rich inner world or feelings.
I heard a great metaphor for this once, comparing it to cooking a meal. Does that ring a bell?
Ah, yes, the salt and pepper metaphor, I think I know the one,
Yeah.
where restatements are like the main dish, right? They form the bulk of your exploratory interactions, providing the substance, the foundation. Open questions and probes are like the salt and pepper. You add them to enhance flavor, draw out specific notes, guide the taste where needed, but you use them judiciously. You don't want to oversalt the dish.
Right. Use them thoughtfully.
Exactly. And then closed questions are like, maybe a very specific potent spice, like saffron or something. You use it only when absolutely essential for a critical part of the recipe and never as the main flavor. A little goes a long way, and too much ruins it.
That's a great way to visualize it. So the overarching guideline for us as helpers in training is if the client is exploring well, talking things through.
Lean on restatements. Encourage them. Reflect. Show you're tracking.
But if they seem stuck or unclear or maybe need a gentle nudge towards something important,
That's when a well-timed open question or a simple probe like, tell me more, can be really useful to help them get unstuck or go deeper.
okay, let's shine a quick spotlight on some research. You mentioned probes, like tell me more, can be useful. Is there research that backs that up, especially maybe around accessing feelings? I'm thinking of that Hill and Gormley study you've touched on.
You're absolutely right to bring that up. It's an interesting and actually quite revealing older study by Hill and Gormley from 1977. They specifically investigated how different therapist skills, reflection of feeling, restatement of content, and probes, along with nonverbal behaviors, influenced how much clients expressed emotion, their affect.
Okay, and what did they find? Anything surprising for our practice today?
Well, their interesting finding, as they called it, was pretty significant. They found that clients produced more effective self-reference.
Meaning they express more feeling.
Exactly. They talked more about their emotions during the probe condition compared to when the therapist was just using reflections or restatements.
Interesting. So probes actually elicited more feeling talk.
It seemed so. Probes, which often directly ask clients to talk more about something, maybe even feeling specifically, how did that feel? Tell me more about that feeling, seemed particularly effective at eliciting more emotional expression.
And did they find anything else?
They also noted, maybe less surprisingly, that clients just talked more overall when they received any kind of feedback or response from the counselor compared to when the counselor said nothing. Interaction helps.
Right. But the key takeaway regarding probes.
Is that they can be particularly powerful tools for gently nudging clients to get in touch with and actually express their emotions.
So maybe not just for exploring thoughts, but also for opening the door to feelings.
Exactly. It's a really key implication for therapy practice. While, it was an experimental design with limitations, it strongly suggests that when you feel a client might need a gentle nudge towards exploring the emotional dimension of their experience, a well-placed probe can be quite effective, almost like a specific tool for unlocking that deeper emotional processing.
Wow, what a deep dive that was. We've really unpacked these crucial skills for exploring clients' non-affective content, their thoughts, the stories that shape their lives.
Yeah, from the mirror-like quality of restatements that help clients really hear themselves,
To the sort of guiding hand of open questions and probes.
and the very precise, though hopefully rare, utility of closed questions.
You listening should now have a clearer map, hopefully, for navigating the complex internal worlds of your future clients. at least the thought-based parts.
And remember, the goal through all of this is always to facilitate their exploration, helping them clarify, understand, and maybe eventually reshape their own narratives.
It's about empowering the client, isn't it?
Absolutely. Fostering their own capacity for self-healing and ensuring you're being a truly effective, empathetic guide on their journey, not taking over the driver's seat.
So as you practice these skills, here's something maybe to ponder. We talk quite a bit about avoiding why questions in this exploration stage, because they can make people defensive. Do you agree with that advice generally? And maybe think about how the impact of asking why might actually change as a client progresses through different stages of helping, moving from exploration, say, into insight, or even action stages.
Ooh, that's a great question for critical thinking. Does why ever become useful? Under what conditions? What might the nuances be?
Yeah, something to chew on for your practice.
Definitely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into exploring thoughts and stories.
We really hope this helps you feel well-informed and more ready to apply these essential helping skills in your own work. Until next time, keep exploring.